Most fights in life are not because of disagreements. You will always disagree. And Allah has created us in this world with our own mindset, our own personalities. It is set up to disagree. But you see, disagreement is where we learn. This is how we grow. I have to disagree. If we agree on everything, something's wrong. If you and I are not upright, our family's not going to be upright, which then mirrors onto the community. Community is then corrupt, and that's how the societies become shaky. It starts with individual and the families. You need to understand where your parents are coming from and how they see things. And parents, you need to see where your children are coming from and how they see things. And the way we do that is that we need to actually listen with empathy to each other. I need to be able to sit down and listen to your child, and sometimes you can learn something from that child in the world they live in, and then you're able to change your approach with them. And suddenly your relationship and your connection with your own child grows.
Sheikh Belal, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Pleasure's all mine.
How's Canada so far? I know you just arrived, so...
I've been here twice. This is my second time. Actually, no, I've been here 3 times.
Really?
But what I mean by twice, in the spring. So when you come here in spring's very nice. I love the sightseeing. It's amazing.
Beautiful. Well, I just want to try to focus on a topic that you've kind of already put some effort into, and you've had a lot of lectures in about this topic, and you've even written a book. It's called Home Sweet Home.
Home Sweet Home.
Yeah, and from what I understand, that it's about building harmonious relationships.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Harmonious relationships, not just between husband and wife, but also between parents and children, from their angle, from a children's angle towards their parents, the in-laws, the grandparents, the neighbors, the friendship circles that are around you. It gives a lot of advice about boundaries and rights. And then once you know the boundaries and rights, it gives you strategies of how to feel confident in maneuvering through them. And the book is essentially about building love, compassion, and mercy. But you have to talk about the rights and boundaries as a platform. And it emphasizes that rights and boundaries are there in order to settle conflicts. It's a standard that you fall back on. So I have this philosophy that, it's actually from the Quran. It's the Quranic teaching that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed a standard and a platform that everyone can fall back on. Because if you don't have a standard, then on what basis do you and I move forward in our agreement and our understandings, and how do we live as a society?
Absolutely.
And the family is the most important cell in functioning in a society. If the family is ruined, if you and I are not upright, our family is not going to be upright, which then mirrors onto the community. And then, the community is then corrupt, and that's how the societies become shaky. It starts with individual and the families.
Interesting, because I was going to ask, my next question was, why did you write the book itself as well? Because you're kind of touching on that.
Originally, it was a series of lectures that I did called Home Sweet Home. And I got a call from the UK, from Q Publications, so let's turn this into a book. And so we wrote it together, basically. And back and forth, we built on it. I added a few references, made it a bit more solid, especially in terms of the references. And it's not just from an Islamic perspective, also from a psychological background, scientific background, lots of modern day and up-to-date research and studies in the area where you get the old and the new, the ancient and the modern come together.
Beautiful, yeah.
The reason I wrote it is because of that's my area in life. Family, counseling, relationships. I was a student counselor for over 20 years. I was a teacher for 20 years. And so when you learn and see the problems and the issues which the young and the old come to you with, you start to see things other people don't see. You start to realize that there are internal issues and problems which people just don't talk about. You see me and I see you, but I don't know what's inside. I don't know the struggles that you're going through. But when you're in that area for that many years, you find a calling to tell you, listen, you have to write something, talk something, do something for the people to as a tool to work with. And you see it from a bird's eye view, And from a very close view, you start to see what's happening inside the homes, and then you start to understand why the general condition of the community and society is like this. Yeah, so then I felt a responsibility, and I'll continue, inshallah, writing more, inshallah.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And I just want to kind of try to give, if anybody's listening to this, if they could have some sort of a perhaps practical advice or perhaps some of the lessons that are actually within the book, if you could touch on those a little
Yeah,
bit.
definitely. Now, the lessons are not just when you look at it, when people think about home sweet home, unfortunately, we live in the society has become more about an individualistic society where it's only about me.
Absolutely.
And if I get married, it's just me and my wife. And if I have children, then it's me, my wife, and my children. And that's it. But happiness in life and the fulfillment and joy in life, and when you start to feel that there is more meaning to life, starts with expanding that relationship. You don't just marry someone to just live on another planet, you and them, and everyone's out of your life. You're going to have children. Those children are not just going to leave you one day and you never see them again. There is a network and a connection between everybody. So one of the advices I give in there is, listen, marriage and having children is connected to other people. And you cannot function and move forward and have a harmonious relationship until we understand that there's a network of relationships that have to fall in together. But at the same time, in that book, I give advice to the in-laws, for example, and how they should be towards their son-in-law and their daughter-in-law and towards their own children. I give advice to the spouses and how they should be towards their in-laws and know where the boundaries are and how to address these boundaries without treading on each other's toes and hurting each other's feelings. I speak a lot to the parents, and I talk about the parents and their children. Okay, we live in a world where I've seen mostly in the Western countries, we've arrived at a crossroad. Our parents and grandparents migrated to these countries. Their children and grandchildren are now,
Settled in.
basically settled in and westernized, but they're at a crossroad where the traditions of their parents and the new Western world are clashing.
There's a secular understanding that's being implemented within
Yes,
subconsciously.
but also the language has changed. So language has an effect on your behavior and your mindset. Language. Our parents and our grandparents speak their own language, and they try to transfer that language to us, but so my generation has only taken half of that language. Then my children will take a quarter of that language. And then the communication barrier is there. So what I try to do is bridge those gaps. Try to let the children understand, look, you need to understand where your parents are coming from and how they see things. And parents, you need to see where your children are coming from and how they see things. And the way we do that is that we need to actually listen with empathy to each other. I need to be able to sit down and listen to your child. And sometimes you can learn something from that child in the world they live in. And then you're able to change your approach with them. And suddenly your relationship and your connection with your own child grows. So, for example, in the book, I give an advice to parents to say, listen, our homes these days have turned into one of two things. Either they are a second school, so they go from school back home, more tutoring, more homework, more work, more routines with study, and that's the relationship they see. Or it's a home of what we say in Arabic, fawda, which means disorganized, no routines, no studies, child does whatever they want. And it's a relationship of absence between everybody. Everybody's on their phone.
Yeah.
There is no real family connection. Children in their rooms or on their devices. Parents are in their own world. So we say we need to be able to speak to your children. Children speak to their parents in a more fulfilling manner, on more of a deeper level, more of a human level, more of a personal level. So one advice I say to parents is, look, utilize those little times you're going to school with them, when you drop them off or when you pick them up from school or when they've come home. Don't talk about anything serious about life. Don't talk about obligations and rules and instructions. If you need to, yes, you remind. But try to make time to talk to your children on a personal level about themselves, about their thoughts, about their opinions. You'd like to learn from them and say, for example, what's something about yourself that you think I would be surprised about that I don't know, son? And you smile about it and say, I'd like to share something with you, share something with me. And you make it lighthearted.
Hmm.
You talk about their interests and show interest in their interests as well, even if it's not that important to you. I think that relationships are built on that connection.
There's an element there that seems to be kind of like almost like a present. It's almost present in every single different example that you've given so far. How would you describe that? What would be the word that you would use to describe that?
I would say listening and communicating with empathy. Empathy, meaning try to place myself in my child's shoes. Try to understand their brain. Try to understand how they're thinking in order for me to adapt to that thinking and use another approach. A child to put themselves in their parents' shoes and understand from their angle as well. There's a mutual sharing of vulnerable moments. And when you share vulnerable moments, the father or the mother shares their vulnerable moments. Let's say they talk about a childhood story of themselves where they were vulnerable and scared. The child sees another angle of their father and mother and says, you know what? My parents did go through things that I've been through, and I can see, how we're alike and how they do understand. And a parent gets to see from their child's angle things that they didn't think they were going through, and then they can stand back and say, so I've got to listen more, and I've got to probably ask more. I've got to read a little bit more. Just doing that without trying to jump the gun and trying to give advice all the time. Just listen, even if they're just 5 years old. Sometimes sharing a story together about yourself, and then your child shares a story about themselves, opens that. There's a deeper connection there that I see. And as you grow up and grow older, those children are able to share with you their secrets, their problems. They'll come to you when they're in trouble. They won't feel that you're not going to listen. They won't feel that you're going to be judgmental. It just breaks that barrier. This is all from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and how he dealt with his children and with the people around him, with his spouses, with his neighbors and friends. It would also make it very easy, accessible to talk without judgment. That's what we're trying to get to there. That'll open so many amazing doors. Most fights in life are not because of disagreements. You will always disagree. And Allah has created us in this world with our own mindset, our own personalities. It is set up to disagree. But you see, disagreement is where we learn. This is how we grow. I have to disagree. If we agree on everything, something's wrong.
Of course.
The conflicts are not disagreements. Conflicts is about the tone that I use with you. It's about my words. It's about how the treatment. Love is based on treatment. In my book, I say love is based on treatment. Love doesn't come from just, you don't just say, I love you. You treat the person you love with the love that you're saying.
It's the experience of it actually that's taking place. Yes,
love is based on treatment. And then love comes by itself. It's a blessing that comes. It's a rizq that comes. It might come, it might not. But love is shown in action, in words, in that way. And then love starts to grow between you with anybody. So conflicts are not based on disagreements. They're based on the tone. So for example, you might say to me, the sky is blue. And I say to you, the sky's green. Which planet are you living on? Okay, now you look at me and say, okay, why do you have to say which planet I'm living on? I show respect. I showed you respect. Say, well, why don't you show me respect? Now we've forgotten all about the sky. And it's about how the tone, right?
Very true.
Most conflicts and most arguments and problems in families and in everyday relationships are like this. In the workforce, we have these 5 T's that I always share with couples every time I'm doing marriage. 5 T's. Trust, transparency, tolerance, talking, and time. These 5 T's, we use them all the time. If you want to have a harmonious relationship, then you have to be able to base it on trust. What is trust? Trust is to be able to give you the benefit of the doubt when you say something and I interpret it in a good way. And as Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to tell us, he told his companions, أحسن الظن بأخيك. Give your brother the benefit of the doubt. Of course, there's a difference between trusting and between making myself absolutely vulnerable so you can manipulate me. No. But if you marry someone, or you have children, or you're in a relationship with your family, it should be based on trust. So build the trust. And building the trust requires you to share these personal moments. We eat together. We talk about life. We talk about laughter. We talk about our vulnerabilities and mistakes. I might say to my child, today I did this most funniest thing, which I felt so silly about. I just was walking, and then I spilt the coffee over someone, and then after that I just didn't know how to talk, and it was awkward. And then once you get your child laughing and they see your vulnerability, you say, and one time I spilt the milk on the floor, and my daughter, and I got a bit angry with myself. My daughter looked at me and said, "It's okay, Baba, we all make mistakes." And then we started sort of, we have this conversation. So build the trust by having these meaningful, vulnerable conversations, and then the tolerance or transparency to be able to communicate and understand, not expect the person to know what you want. So how many times do I have to tell you? I've said this many times, especially between husband and wife. They expect the other one to sort of understand them just because they've been together for a few years. So you still today, you don't understand me? No, you don't. You have to continue you have to renew your communication. Things change, new things happen in life, and you encounter things that you didn't expect. So marriage is always building, and there's always something new. So you have to be transparent with each other, how you're feeling, what you're thinking, what's bugging you, rather than letting it accumulate. Because if you let it accumulate, we have a statement in Arabic, I use it in the book, كالشعرة التي كسرت ظهر البعير. This is a famous ancient saying. It says, it is like the thread of hair which broke the camel's back. What does this mean? It's when you overload the camel. You keep overloading. The camel's strong, but you're not unloading it. You just keep loading and loading and loading until finally the camel is barely holding on. And guess what? You drop a thread of hair, and so all it takes, and the camel drops. You think it's because of the thread of hair.
Wow.
And then you think, wow, because of that, we had a fight. No, it's not because of the thread of hair. It's not because of that last argument we had. It's not because of that little thing. No, it's the accumulation over the years which you haven't unloaded. And that's because I expect you to know. You expect me to know. Don't be transparent, ya akhi. Tolerance. Don't expect everybody to be perfect. You've got to be able to just accept the person with their personality. So you come into the marriage with certain habits. These habits you call cute in the beginning. 6 months down the track, you call them irritating because you're in each other's face. Sometimes a box of chocolate is enough. Talk to each other. Words have a profound effect, phenomenal effect. Not everybody's words have the same effect as everyone else. Your mother will always say beautiful things about you. My darling, you're my everything, right? She's your mother. We say in Arabic, الأرنب عن أمه غزال. The monkey is a deer in its mother's eyes, right? But when a wife says nice words to her husband, it's different to what his mum said. When a husband says good words to his wife, different to when her father says it. Father's her father. A husband has a profound effect. But when they say hurtful words to each other,
it's the same thing.
Right? It goes deeper.
Yeah.
It goes deeper. But it has more of a profound effect between husband and wife, for example. It has more profound effect when a parent suddenly praises their son or their daughter for something, but gives them quality feedback. Not just, that's amazing. That's talking. I think one of the things that a lot of the communities can learn, I found it in our community as well, is communication, not just getting the point across or clearly articulating your words, but knowing what to say and how to say it and to whom. The way I would talk to you, I would try to understand you first, and I'll say, okay, what works with you, what doesn't. So I think I give an example in that book about a couple. I can't remember, but I allude to it where it's called the love language.
That's a very psychological term as well. Yeah.
And I say that a husband said to his wife, he never said to his wife, I love you. So I counseled them and said, well, tell her I love you tonight. She wants to hear it. And she said to me, he never says I love you. So I said, say to her, I love you. The next day I saw them and they were very upset with each other. And he looked at me and said, "Oh, I felt so ugly in my skin when I said I love you. I'm just not used to it."
Mm.
And then she said, "I hope he never says it again, because the way you said it was like getting a stone and just throwing it at me. He just doesn't know when to say it and how to say it." So I said, "Listen, you have your own love language. You know, he shows his love to you in a certain way that is not the standard, typical way that everybody does it."
Yeah.
So I saw him one day. He went and got a fig, little fig, tin, from a tree. He's eating away at it, and he brought her one on his way. So she thought, oh, he went and thought about me. And that was sort of a little love language
Love
between
language,
them. And finally, you've got time with each other. There's something that's lacking. Time doesn't mean that your body is just there, but you're really investing. Even if it's just 10 minutes, you're really there, investing in each other. In the book, I think I talk about making time every 2 weeks and every 2 months and every year, where you go on a date every 2 weeks, and then every 2 months you go on, you stay out somewhere but locally, and then every year you just go on a holiday and arrange your children with someone else. So the idea, you can't let your marriage and your relationships turn into a formal relationship. For example, with parents and children as well, when Eid arrives, and then you got to say Kul aam wa antum bi khair, and you got to kiss your parents' hands. If you're not used to it during the year, it becomes so awkward and formal on the day, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So the idea in that book is you got to break those
habits,
and you got to break those awkward situations by being normal humans throughout, the year, as the Prophet ﷺ taught us.
Just wanted to ask a follow-up question, which is, there are those blocks, if that's what we're calling them, those blocks that all of us have built, that resistance to be able to have that type of empathy. Why do those take place in our general life?
Well, there are a number of reasons why they take place. It could be from the way that that person was raised in their childhood, how they were raised with their parents. Maybe they didn't show much affection and openness in their relationship, and so they've got their guards up.
Yeah.
And so their ability to open up to someone will take a long time. Sometimes it's because of the other person never giving their child or the other person the chance to be able to speak without being judged. So sometimes if I talk to you and I know that my first experience with you was that you were a bit sarcastic. My second experience, you were also sarcastic. I was saying, okay, well, I'm not going to really talk much. And imagine that with the parents, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's being embarrassed in front of people, experiences. And look, someone has to break the ice. Otherwise, the blocks will start getting built up more and more. We don't want it where a person ends up on their deathbed or at the hospital, and that's when they start to open up. I see this all the time.
SubhanAllah.
Yeah. I mean, that's another big topic. Sometimes you need someone else to come in and break the ice between them. So
even in those situations,
sometimes a child breaks the ice, breaks the stormy silence. I call it the stormy silence sometimes. Someone has to start breaking the ice. Now, in this world, you have the muslih and the mufsid. There's always the muslih and the mufsid. Who's the muslih? The muslih is the one who puts things in order. Al-mufsid is the one who takes them apart. Muslih and mufsid. And Allah says, Wallahu yuhibbul muslihin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes those who fix. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like the fasidin. So even in the family dynamics, you're going to have these different people. Someone has to go in and start to break the ice. And sometimes we need to get help. There's a book called, I allude to it in the book, it's called How to Make Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Yes.
And that's taught in the master's class, I heard, in business as well these days. But I read that from cover to cover. Although written by a non-Muslim man, I found a lot of similarities to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in his talk. And I'm thinking, I wonder if Dale Carnegie even learnt about Islam or not. And he alludes a lot to Abraham Lincoln, which is very Christian. And there are some values in there that are very close to how the Prophet ﷺ was in his communication. And I think Dr. Muhammad Al-Arif, he wrote he Islamicized it. It says, enjoy your life. And he based it on that book and just put the hadiths and the sunnah in it. It teaches you how to communicate with empathy. And it gives you an example, how to break the ice. Words. It says, why not compliment someone out of the blue with nothing in return? And that's the meaning of the hadith, أن تحب أخاك لله. You love your brother for the sake of Allah. That's what it means. It means give without wanting anything in return. Why? I love Allah. And by loving my brother, Allah loves me, and I get to create love between us for the sake of Allah. Meaning, there's nothing that I want from them except the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the love between us for the sake of Allah. And you always do something for the sake of something, right? You might say for the sake of goodness. Well, isn't Allah goodness? Allah is good. Allah is goodness in everything. I'm doing it for the sake of mercy. Allah is the most merciful. So whether you do it for the sake of goodness or mercy, Allah is the most merciful. He is the most good. He is the source of all that. So that's the meaning. أن تحب أخاك لله, to love your brother for the sake of Allah, not wanting anything else from them. These things start building good relationship between us. Forgiveness, pardoning. So,
MashaAllah. Beautiful. I think we are short on time, unfortunately. And I just wanted to ask if you had any parting advice to anybody who's trying to, perhaps they're in that stage where they realize that they might be, in that same situation. Perhaps they're they're beginning their journey, or perhaps they're in the middle of a chaotic situation, but they're trying to take that first step. Any advice for them?
Obviously, that's a big question. I mean, so many dynamics there. The first thing I would say is simple advice, is somewhere to start. Make wudu, pray 2 rak'ahs, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ease your heart and to give you guidance and to give you courage. Number 2, talk to somebody who you feel the closest to you in your family circle, who you can have, who would listen, and ask for advice. Seek some advice. This is my situation. What's the best thing to do? Number 3, try to talk by listening and understanding, but not necessarily agreeing. So take that burden off you a little bit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if the intention is to want reconciliation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will assist both of them, any two people who are in conflict. But it has to be mutual. But if you do it yourself, you will find that bi'idhnillah, half of that problem will go. And I say, look, there are 4 steps. If you cannot solve a problem, that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, and lower your expectations. Think about how you can minimize the problem. What can you saddid wa qarib, what can you get out of it? What can you not? It's not all in or all out. So, and if you can't do that, then try to employ the problem, meaning get yourself busy with things. Direct yourself into hobbies and things of interest that replaces that void. And that way you won't focus too much on the problem. Number 4 is time. Sometimes you can't resolve things, but in time. And there's always dua in the situation. Now, there are some things that you can never be able to resolve them, really intense things, really, sometimes it gets to a point of danger. So that type of person does need help and needs to get out of that danger and seek support. And if people are in really, really difficult situations, to connect with their local professional advisors and therapists, if maybe that person needs help with their own mental well-being, seek some professional help. Muslims are better because they understand our culture and Islam.
Nuances.
Yeah, don't be afraid to open up and to talk to somebody who is wiser and older, inshallah.
Inshallah. Sheikh, Jazakallah khair. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for having me here.